Hey everybody, I hope you're having a great Wednesday. My name is John, this is Havoc Maker Studio and FNP Wargamers, and let's get into this. So, the other day I mentioned that Quicksilver is probably going to be following the same formula that has worked very well for Atomic Mass games and releasing information. They show off some miniatures and they will show off maybe how to paint, and we'll see a panel to play, and then we'll see maybe the character in action on Twitch, and then we'll get to see their game cards and everything else before the release. And true to form, Atomic Mass Games has yet to disappoint us. So, as I said the other day, we'll probably see panel to play this week for Pietro Maximoff or Quicksilver. And sure enough, here we are. Now, I'm a day behind on this, but you know what? At least we're talking about it. So, his character, I kind of talked about before the other day, but I want to go and just re-highlight. He is in his classic costume. None of his costumes really have ever resonated with me. I'm not even a big fan of the classic, but I'm glad they put him in that classic costume. He is looking actually pretty snazzy here. There's a lot of nice fluid motion to what he's doing, and even the exploding rock that seems to accompany every Marvel character. And it's kind of like Games Workshop always having a Space Marine or any other character with their Captain Morgan stance. It seems to be exploding rocks and debris for Marvel Crisis Protocol, which totally fine. It just helps make the characters seem a lot more dynamic, which is really cool. And given his speed, Quicksilver could easily be seen here, probably running across exploding rocks because he's just that fast, using them as stepping stones, like something out of an anime. So let's cover just briefly what they have here for his panel to play. Now, I like to do this and read off the rules and whatnot because there's a lot of people out there that watch the show, or actually, I should say, listen to the show while they're driving. So this is for you. Those of you that are here, you can read along or just listen to background while you're at work or painting. But before you do that, if you get a chance, not while you're driving, please wait until you park later. If you're on your computer right now or your phone, jump down, hit that subscribe button. It really helps out the channels. And once we get up to 100 followers here on Havoc Maker Studio, that means that you guys are enjoying what we're doing here, which we're at like 54 now. We're almost there. That means also I can start giving away tons of this prize support that's just sitting here that I've collected over the years. So back to Quicksilver. So he has long movement range, which surprise, surprise, I'm not I'm not surprised. I don't think you are either. That's good. And I'm just going to skip ahead to one part. He has the wall crawler ability, but even though he doesn't really wall crawl, it's just instead of coming up with a new power, wall crawling and flight just ignores terrain for movement purposes. Normally, if you want to get on top of something like a building, you have to, if you don't have wall crawler or flight, you use the short range movement ruler. And regardless if you have a long range movement, medium, or short, you always use the short unless you have wall crawler or flight. So he has that ability to go along with his speed because he can just zip up and zip around. That's just how fast he is. He can essentially defy gravity for a limited time. So he also has another ability for 2 power, and my guess is this is going to be only once per turn. It'll probably cost an action, but you never know. This might be a cool rule where you can do it once per turn. You spend 2 power, but it doesn't cost you an action, and he can make an additional long movement, provided he isn't holding something to weigh him down. In fact, we just solved that. That's potentially 3 long moves, or as we say in these parts, most of the map. So the reason why I say it's now very extremely likely it is not an action is because you can only make 2 actions during an activation, which means he could make 2 long moves, but now he can make 3. So that's good. That's really awesome. That puts him around 20 some odd inches. I forget what the actual long range movement is, but I'm going to say around 20 some odd inches. All right, so it doesn't stop there though. So Quicksilver moves so fast he can blaze cross water without sinking. So there's the wall crawling ability. Now, they're very vague on a lot of his abilities here, so we're going to have to just kind of guess. So his basic attack is the supersonic strike because he's moving so fast he can hit and run on a target. And thanks to his dash special rule, he can carry that momentum into another attack on a different target with the velocity special rule. So my guess is if he manages to strike with this supersonic strike, and say he's probably going to require, this is my guess, he's going to require a wild dice and maybe a critical hit or a hit. Let's just go with the wild dice effect for supersonic strike. So if he rolls that wild side on the 8-sided dice, then he can activate the next ability, which allows him to do the next attack and on a different target, probably within a certain range. Not sure what the velocity special rule is, but we'll see. Best of all, there's no limitation on how often either of these two rules can trigger with supersonic strike. So Quicksilver can blur through enemy, leaving a line of bruises to mark his passage. So my guess is, interesting. So okay. I think I figured this out. So he's got the supersonic strike, which means he probably has it's probably a kind of a long range attack, meaning he can move. Basically, he's gonna, let's say it's a range 3 or range 4 attack. So he'll trigger this attack. He'll move up to the character, probably be within range 1, and if he gets, say, a wild side, he'll activate the velocity special rule, which will allow him to move on to the next target. And from what I'm gathering here is that this doesn't just stop. As long as he is in range and he gets the obligatory rolls on the dice, he can bounce around to multiple enemy characters. So probably don't be bunching up your characters, okay? And that's it. That's all we have for Quicksilver. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how he plays and, of course, see what his rules are. We'll see Scarlet Witch's rules first before we see his. So that's unfortunate we have to wait, but we have to wait. No biggie. Let's get on to Mr. Sinister. I'm super excited. Mr. Sinister is one of my favorite X-Men villains, X-Factor, X-Force, X anything. Now, he started out as human, and then he gene spliced mutant genes over the years onto him. So remember that. A lot of people, I mean, he is now a mutant, but he wasn't a mutant. Thanks to Apocalypse helping him out. That's how all that came about. So let's take a look at his rules. So the only difference between his injured side, which is on the right, or his day side, and his left side, which is healthy side, is it looks like on his healthy side he has 6 health, and it drops down to 5 health on his dazed or injured side. So that's a very healthy 11 total damage he can take. He's got medium range movement, which is going to be really good. We'll get into that in a little bit. He is size 3. We figured that because he's on a bigger base. He's a big boy. That's nothing wrong with that. He's about the size of Venom, it looks like, in volume. And he's only a threat 4. I shouldn't say only a threat 4 because that's still pretty expensive. I think Hulk is threat 6. Ghost Rider, I believe, is a 5. Just as an example. So not too bad. Now, he's not super powerful with his attacks, but he's got a lot of variety. Let's get into that in just a moment. So his defenses, physical and energy defenses are 3. It's average. It's good. And his mystic is a 4, which is really good because we're starting to see a lot more mystic characters popping up. So looking at him, and I'm not going to read for both the injured and the healthy side. Everything else is the same. We're just going to read one side. So his first basic attack is an energy attack. It's a strike, range 3, 5 dice, 0 power. And you gain a point of power equal to the amount of damage that you actually dealt. And real quick, if you're not familiar with what that means, let's say your target can only take 3 points of damage, but you do 5. Well, you're only going to count those 3. You can't over damage and gain any benefit from that. It's only the amount of damage that can be dealt. All right, so his next ability is a genetic splicing. It's a mystic attack. It is a beam 4 attack. This is a very long range beam attack, and everything along that line is going to get hit. It's 5 dice, which is okay, but it only costs 1 power. So cheap for this ability. And here is the cool thing. So it has a genetic extraction ability. After each attack is resolved, this character gains 1 genetic sample token. We're going to get into those in just a little bit. And then his next attack is recombinant disintegration. It has a range, an area of effect attack with a star. We'll get into that. Well, we'll start right now. The range of this attack is equal to the number of genetic samples this character has. So I'll read ahead. You can have up to 3 genetic samples on you at any time. So he can do up to a range 3 area attack. That's huge. It's 6 dice, but it costs 6 power. That's costly. Now, is it worth it? I think so. It has the extra ability called Genetic Burst. So after you're done resolving the attack of with everybody within range, whatever it is that you have, from 1 to 3 on those 6 dice, and I'm guessing Genetic Burst, you need a hit, a critical hit, and a wild hit, a wild dice, or a wild side on the dice. I think that's what that means, that you have to have all 3 of those. Now, after this attack is resolved, each enemy character within range of this attack suffers 1. So even if you manage to avoid the initial damage of the 6 dice, you're going to likely take that 1 damage unless you have something that negates it, which this guy can. And we'll get to that. So once again, he has got a lot. That's his most expensive ability, by the way. Most expensive ability is 6 power. So I mean, that's potentially a turn 3 ability, more than likely, depending on how much damage you've taken and how much power you've generated and not used. So his first superpower is Engineered Perfection. Cost him 0 power. I said this stuff is cheap, okay? This is cheap stuff. You can remove any number of genetic sample tokens, which is up to 3, and you can remove 1 special condition from this character for each genetic sample token removed. So you've been hit with bleed, root, and say stagger. You got 3 tokens, you can get rid of all those at a cost of 0 power. That's awesome. That's awesome. It doesn't cost you anything. And it doesn't even cost you an action. That's awesome. This guy has got some good defenses there. Genetic negation is another superpower. He's got 3 of them. This costs 1 power. Really cheap. Choose an enemy character within range 3 of this character and remove 1 genetic sample token from this character. If you do, the chosen character gains the root special condition. It means you're not moving. That's pretty cool. For 1 power, range 3, not too bad. I don't know how often it'll be used, but that could be a clutch moment. Steal away that movement and getting to an objective. His next and last superpower, but he's got 3 other abilities, is Such Fun Little Playthings. This one is potentially good to, in conjunction, say, with Genetic Negation. So it's got a range 2 power. It costs 2 power. Choose an enemy character within range 3 and advance that character short range. It can only be used once per turn. So when it says advance, that means you can move them in any direction. Okay? So don't think, just keep moving them forward. No. You move them in a direction. So you can pop off such fun little playthings, which doesn't cost an action, just 2 power. Move him away. So he's definitely out of range, just in case he has something that can get rid of the genetic negation, which roots him for 1 more power. So for 3 power, you could potentially move somebody away and hold them away. Well, move them away towards, say, one of your allies that's going to activate, that still hasn't activated, and that's going to pounce on them. Then you could root them so they can't really. It's not going to help too much if they activate the character, and you can really screw with somebody's day. I hope you smell what I'm stepping in here. His innate, no, I'm sorry, not his innate, but his reactive power, his molecular regeneration is another 0 cost power. So cheap. If this character would suffer damage, it may use this superpower, remove any number of genetic sample tokens from this character, which once again is up to 3 at any time, and reduce the amount of damage suffered by 1 for each genetic sample removed. And it doesn't say to a minimum of 1, it just says reduce the amount of damage suffered by 1 for each. So you could potentially negate all damage that turn for 0 power. And considering that you could pop off for 1 power the genetic extraction to gain at least 1 sample, if not more, man, you're going to be, this guy's going to be kind of a troll character. He's going to be able to take the hits. And I mean, he's not like a high damage output guy, but he's a versatile character. He's a very versatile character. Now, his first innate ability is DNA database. This is basically, this character may have a maximum of 3 genetic sample tokens at a time. And his last one, which I thought was really cool, was flight. I forgot that this guy has all sorts of abilities, and flight being one of them. So when you take that into account with his movement of range M, the medium movement, and his ability to fly, pretty much no obstacle is going to be in his way, and be able to get up and above or around terrain so he can pop off his genetic splicing beam attack. Whoo. Nathaniel SX, Mr. Sinister, is looking pretty gosh darn good. So let me know what you guys think about this character. I mean, is he going to hit your roster? I think he's hitting mine. Like I said, he's one of my favorite characters. My favorite villains, I should say. One of my favorite villains. I've got my top 10 Marvel characters. Really, it's more heroes. But Mr. Sinister would be in my top 10 villain list. Most assuredly. Probably number 2, right behind Madeline Pryor, the Goblin Queen. All right. Let me know what you guys think about these characters. Let me know what you think about Quicksilver. Am I right on the money there? Does he seem like he's going to be a little overpowered? I don't think so. I don't think the Supersonic Strike is going to do a lot of damage. I just think it's going to probably be a 5 dice attack. But he's going to be able to pop it off a lot. So let me know what you guys think about that. Make sure you hit that subscribe button down below. Leave a comment. And I'll catch you guys next time here on Havoc Maker Studio and FNP Wargamers. Enjoy your Wednesday. I'll see you guys later.